Yo, what's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? That's right. We checking in here Sunday, May 14th edition of the Boxing Source Radio Show. That's right. It's James Bell, the host of the Boxing Source, and I got the Chef Terrell in the building here opening the show. Man, what's going on, Terrell?
No, man, just working hard, man. Often days, we often do. We're multi-talented, as we say. You're doing got many hats on and stuff like that. So just kind of be a master of all that you can, and be effective at the same time. So you know how it goes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, I'm getting in here to, check out, all the stuff that's going on, all the action that went down. Of course, we got the main topic here that we're going to jump right into. This is for the WBA super lightweight title. Rolly Romero against Ismael Barroso. Going into the fight, there were a number of jokes out and about in reference to Rolly Romero's opponent, Ismael Barroso, including myself. Saying that he, kind of like, looked like he was up there in age, man. They listed him as 40 years old, but, some people didn't even believe that. But, we got this position because the standing or the champion at the time, there, Alberto Puello, got caught testing positive in a body test. So he couldn't fight Rolly Romero in this spot. And Ismael Barroso was the highest ranked contender out there available. And so, he got into this fight against Rolly Romero. And, the thing is, man, going into this fight, man, I thought Rolly Romero was going to go in there and, kind of do his thing. He gets his spot to fight for a world title after losing by knockout to Gervonta Tank Davis. And in those first couple of rounds, it just looked like, the Rolly Romero that we kind of saw before the Tank Davis fight. Kind of tentative, just waiting to counter, not initiating the action against a much older guy. And, in those first couple of rounds, it ended up being almost nearly his downfall. The third round, he got caught with a couple of left hands, then got caught with one. They sent him back to the ropes and put him down to the canvas, man. So it was like, oh my goodness, look at this, man. He is just not doing what he's supposed to do in this match. And even though you had Cromwell Gordon, of course, Coach Bullet, there in his corner. You also had, his dad there that's been part of the camp for Rolly Romero. Still wasn't doing that much, man, for him. Man. He was, not really doing anything at all there against the guy in Ismael Barroso that, was significantly slowed down from his previous fights for those that have seen him, So it was like, okay, when is Rolly Romero going to actually do anything here in this bout? And so it just got to those eighth and ninth rounds, and he caught, eventually caught Barroso with a left hand that, stunned him, and then a right that put him down to the canvas. But, for those that did see the thing live and saw the replay, they saw that the right hand really pushed down Ismael Barroso. But it was counted as a knockdown. And I was like, okay, well, it was counted as a knockdown. And, Barroso was looking kind of buzzed there a little bit. So maybe Rolly Romero would be able to take advantage of that. But, in that ninth round, Rolly did get Barroso there to the ropes and, threw a few punches, but those punches didn't land. Barroso was throwing punches that looked like it was landing better than Rolly Romero was. And then all of a sudden, referee Tony Weeks gets up in there, breaks him up, and then steps in front of Barroso and waves off the bout and gives the fight to Rolly Romero. And everybody was like, what in the world is this here? And so now you have Rolly Romero as a WBA super lightweight champion. I mean, this is crazy, man. That was wild. That was like I couldn't believe it. Some people had like some knee jerk reactions about Tony Weeks and how he stopped this in comparison to earlier fights that he was involved in, but This is the same Tony Weeks. Like, he has been involved in over 800 professional fights, and a few fights, after one notable fight that he was involved in that, involved Eidos Ubasanula, who, nearly got beat almost to, he didn't, almost lost his life in the ring. You know what I'm saying? And Tony Weeks was involved in that. Some people may have said like he may have acted prematurely on that, but this is the same Tony Weeks that was involved in a number of fights after that. So I don't think that was kind of like a factor in it. I just felt like he just was in there like prematurely and just stepped in like saying, hey, I mean, you can't at least let the fighter continue. This is a world title belt. At least, have it, be a definitive win if it was going to be a definitive win there for Rolly Romero. But it was not. But, Rolly is now the WBA champion at super lightweight at 140 pounds. And it's just been just a crazy scene in boxing circles after this. And, Terrell, you're here joining live. What were your initial reactions after seeing that stoppage?
Well, unfortunately, I get to see the fight live, but since then, of course, I've been able to absorb some details about the fight since then. I mean, a couple of things, actually a few things, right? But let me speak to Romero first, right? Well, let me speak to Barroso first. If looking old was a person, man, that dude looked like he'd been through some wars, literal wars, right? And I'm not talking about boxing. Look like he's been through some wars in life. But if he's truly 40 years old, then all power to it. We know there's been some question people in regards to age. What's my man named, the heavyweight?
Luis Ortiz.
Yeah, he's probably the most popular one as far as his age being questioned. But I think that Barroso now takes that place as he really is what he say he is and stuff like that. But aside from that, so we look at Rolly Romero, right? I think he's a fight or two away from being beat by a tank or whatever it was, right? The question I want to pose, like, have you been to the best fight of your life? You took a loss. Do you regress or do you progress in terms of your style, your command in the ring, things like that? And in this case, I think we definitely saw regression in Romero. We expected more. I mean, the thing about it, sometimes being in a high profile fight brings out the best of you, right? And we'll soon be able to tell that, like, for example, like with Ryan Garcia, post tank and things like that. Back to Romero, it was a classic regression, and we wanted more. We didn't get that, like kind of what's going on. And then we fast forward to Mr. Referee Tony Weeks, right? A lot of times you want to give a veteran referee the benefit of a doubt, right? Because he's seen so much. He's seen so many scenarios. And at that point, he's seen so many times where someone, a boxer is in the ring and he's hurt. Or it might be susceptible to injury, things like that. So you tend to want to give a veteran referee, like I said, the benefit of the doubt. But in this case, it is very, very hard to justify what he did, and it leaves everyone watching just totally be founded. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Did you see something that we didn't see? And at this point, with so many eyes on this fight, especially for boxing insiders, there's not a lot that we're gonna miss in terms of watching a bout, even though whether it be live or on TV. There's not gonna be a lot that we're gonna miss. And it's, in that regard, if he sees something, then your boxing insiders, they're gonna see the same thing. But in this case, dog, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what you saw. That's why it should be a post-fight interview for referees too. That would be great, but that really doesn't exist in the sport of boxing. So
right.
So it's kind of like with Romero at. Now, doing fair, is this one of the belts that Josh Taylor dropped?
Yes, it was.
So he's definitely a full champion at 140.
Yes, he is a full champ. He is a full champ. And going off the one of the last things that you said in reference to Tony Weeks, like after the fight, you did have Jim Gray that was talking with Rolly Romero and with Ismael Barroso, and after that was done, he was saying like, hey, we try to reach out to Tony Weeks or someone from the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and they weren't available for comment. And the thing about it is that like if you have some type of thing like this, you got to be at least accountable for it. You know what I'm saying? And Tony Weeks at that particular instance was not there and not available. And that is one of the things that I think kind of hurts the sport in a sense. And you kind of seen those comments from various people, whether they're promoters or commentators or whatever involved with the sport, that kind of say like, hey, if you have something like this happening, you got to at least say something to give some type of account of yourself for making that decision. And Tony Weeks didn't do that. So it's like you leave that up to people to talk about from this point forward. Like, why in the world would you go in there and prematurely stop the fight when like I said, Barroso wasn't necessarily in serious danger in that instance. And Rolly Romero wasn't really throwing that many punches. 2, and then 3, I mean, this is at a point where even though Romero had scored the knockdown in round 9, Ismael Barroso was well ahead on a couple of scorecards up to that point. Through 8 rounds he was leading on one scorecard 78-73, and on another scorecard 77-74, and then the last one was 76-75. So if he gets through that round just with that 10-8, you still would have something where it's like, hey, you still are ahead on a couple of scorecards with a few rounds left to go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, it's wild that the referee there and Tony Weeks just didn't give at least Ismael Barroso the chance to get through the round in a world title fight. That that's just something right there, man. And I kind of like say that, yeah, you can't really say, oh, it's a knee-jerk reaction or something when it's like you've been involved in so many bouts over the course of your professional career. It's like Tony Weeks has been a referee for almost 20 years, and he's been involved in recent bouts like the Gabe Rosado Big the Bully fight a few weeks ago. Jesus Ramos versus Joey Spencer is another one. But he's also known for being involved in the Corrales Castillo fight or in the rematch between Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev. So he's been part of those fights, and also what was it, the Battle Jack Marcus Brown joint where Battle Jack had that cut or something like that too. So that's one of the multiple bouts that he's been involved in that's been fairly notable, where he didn't necessarily stop the bout then, or even the Fury versus Wallin fight where Fury had that big old cut. He had Tyson Fury go through all of those rounds. You know what I'm saying? So that was the thing about it. Just a real quick shout out to the people listening live here on the YouTube channel. This will also be available on podcast form later on down the line. But shout out to Mr. Seth, Chris Trucker in the building, Ness Mendoza in the building, Juice in the building, and all of that. So we got live chats on here. He said Ness says that I never knew Barroso. But now I know him. He's good being a senior, like a senior citizen. I don't know, man. He also blasted Rolly Romero. He lost that fight. What he said, it was fixed by the judges, cherry picking gone wrong. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, the judges actually had Barroso winning up to that point through 8 rounds. All 3 judges had Barroso ahead through 8 rounds before that 9th round. So it was, something where, like I said, even with the knockdown, if you're there as a referee, you kind of like kept seeing what was going on during that fight. Barroso, was making a good enough account of himself because Rolly Romero wasn't really doing that much.
Well, does Romero fight under Mayweather, right?
Yes, he is under Mayweather Promotions. Yes.
So I'm just to add to the conspiracy out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching boxing way back in the day with my father growing up, right? He always said, "Boy, it's fixed. They already know who's going to win. They just want to make some more money." So I'm not necessarily just applying that theory to this fight, but in the same sense I am, right? And just to add another conspiracy, Mayweather paid to have the manufacturer champion at 140, knowing there's a belt available. And it just what Tony Reese has done, not making himself available for comment, it just adds to the mystery of this entire fight and to the fact that Romero's now a champion. Like I said, they basically manufactured himself a new champion. And what's kind of funny, that ever since Rolly lost to Tank, he's been clamoring for another fight with Tank. But I mean, we know that's not going to happen. But the only way that could happen is if Romero has a belt, he has something to offer. And now he has a belt, but now he's going to be forced to defend it. That's the thing about it. And once again, not only defend it, but we cannot see another regression in his skill set in terms of command and things like that. Wins in the ring, can be getting knocked down as a champion, things like that. So, I mean, if that was a fight, if Romero could build himself up with this belt within a few fights, stuff like that, and survive, then kudos to him. He's made himself better from the Tank fight and from this fight too. But is that likely? Not necessarily. I think you probably think the same thing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is with Romero, and you kind of mentioned it with him being involved with Mayweather Promotions, it does open the door for that type of a controversy. And for some that have followed Rolly Romero for some time, this could remind them of the fight that he had a few years back against Jackson Mariñez, where many people thought that Jackson Mariñez kind of got the better of Rolly Romero, but Rolly Romero ended up getting the decision to win at the time an interim lightweight title. So kind of fast forward to now, you kind of get this right here where he scores a knockdown in the 9th round in questionable circumstances, and then you have what went down here in this particular instance with the stoppage by Tony Weeks. But I have another guest here that is ready to join us here on the live chat, the host of War Week Radio Network, Mr. Joseph Heron. What's going on, Joseph?
Brother Jay, how you doing, my friend? And Terrell, how you doing, brother?
Hey, what's good to hear from you, man? Good to hear from you.
Oh, gosh, I tell you what. I just got back from the final press conference for TMB Promotions for next Saturday's fights, or this coming up Saturday's fights. 11 pro bouts at the Techport Arena in front of 4,000 people. It's going to be so much fun. And Roy Jones Jr. was there, man. Yeah, had fun. But I tell you what, last night, and I love hearing all of you guys' thoughts and your conversation. And yeah, man, everyone is going apeshit over last night's the actions of referee Tony Weeks, a veteran referee and one of the more liberal referees in boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you look at, and once again, you so eloquently talked about all of his great fights, over 800, right? And, one of the most clutch referees and one of the fan-friendly referees.
Right.
I was saying, hey, man, this guy's turning into Steve Smoger because he lets you go out on your shield. So there's no doubt in my mind, and I know a lot of people are throwing out conspiracy theories. And you even get boxing guys in this business talking all kinds of jive. Oh, it's all about money. And you and I both talked about last week last week, on Thursday, I think it was, or Wednesday, we were talking about how this fight shouldn't even be taking place.
Right.
And it's obvious corruption from the WBA.
Right.
First of all, how is Rolly Romero getting this kind of opportunity in his first fight after a loss to Gervonta Davis, first fight at 140? How is he getting this opportunity? And then Puello.
I don't know that.
Test dirty. And then he's replaced by Barroso, who's the number 35 ranked fighter in the world, but the number one contender, number one ranked contender somehow in the WBA. And we talked about that.
Yep.
So this fight already stunk to high heaven, brother. Right?
Yep.
Fight already stunk to high heaven. And then now you get this. Look, I will say this, brother. I will say this. I've always been considered a boxing apologist and never a conspiracy theorist. And I will say this because Tony Weeks has always been a great guy. And he's always been a very liberal-minded referee, almost too liberal, right? I think you're spot on when you say that, well, look at his last big effort, last major effort, and he was ridiculed for not pulling the trigger soon enough. And poor Aidos Yerbasanala, his career's over. In fact, he's lucky to be alive. He'll lucky to be the exact same way. He'll be lucky to function in daily life the same way because of veteran referee Tony Weeks being too liberal. Guys, these gentlemen are human. And that, I'm sorry, speaking with referees like this, those poor decisions, those lapses in judgment, the willingness to give these fighters the benefit of the doubt, when you make a mistake like that, it weighs heavily on the soul and the mind. I can promise you this. He pulled the trigger in that fight, and it's not a product of corruption. Not because of the money, because once again, who the hell is Rolly Romero? Okay, he's not a pay-per-view star. Dude, you're not a pay-per-view anything unless you're the B-side of a more popular fighter who sells tickets. Okay? So this isn't about money. Once again, Rolly can't fight. He showed that last night. He still can't. He got outboxed by Jackson Mariñez. He got his ass whooped by Gervonta Davis, and he hasn't learned a damn thing.
Right.
Okay, so I'm here to tell you guys, don't echo a sentiment of corruption, any kind of that nonsense and ignorance. Guys, Tony Weeks is human. He made a huge mistake. And it's still weighing heavily on the brain. Guys, in my opinion, he needs to step down and retire because he is no longer capable of doing a competent job at the highest level. Now, once again, this is a guy who's very competent in the past, a very liberal-minded, fan-friendly referee. And then we see that last night.
No,
he's shaken, brother. He is shaken.
Why couldn't it be corruption when he's seen as much as so many different scenarios, so many different fighters, weight classes, things like that? All of that to consider. Why would he do that? I mean, I
just told you, Terrell.
You really can't.
No. That's not good enough, dude. Join the business and talk to some of these refs, and you'll understand that that corruption theory, that bullshit is nonsense, dude. Nonsense. You talk about a guy with integrity like Tony Weeks, a guy who works for the commission, not a single promoter. Okay, and once again, he's done a tremendous blue chip job for his entire tenure through boxing. And then his last major assignment, he cost this guy almost his life. Definitely his career because of the judgment of Tony Weeks. He's human. He's shaken. And with pulling the trigger that quickly last night, that's a direct product of this weighing heavily on his conscience. Okay.
It's
Now,
almost
if
like
you can't understand that, then I don't know what else to tell you.
It's like almost like a knee-jerk reaction on that. But you also had something in reference to this whole situation of this event. But before I break that down, I want to add in another guest here, brother Steph. Coming in from California, goes by the name of Bass Reeves here. What's going on, Steph?
What's going on, gentlemen? Terrell, Mr. Herring.
What up?
How
What
you
up?
doing, Bass?
I'm chilling. It's Bass, but it's all
Oh,
good.
I'm
It's all
sorry.
good.
My
You're
apologies,
good.
Bass. My
No,
apologies.
sir.
No, it's
no
because
problem.
I'm a musician and a bass player. That's why I said bass automatically. My apologies.
I said it
Me
too.
too. I play the drums. Hey, you guys hit it all on the head. I stopped watching after Rolly was floored. I was like, this is ridiculous. I turned that stuff off. I was on the phone with my brother as well, and I could hear his reactions, and I'm like, he still hasn't won yet. He still hasn't knocked him out yet. And story ends with 10th round stoppage. No overreaction from me. I mean, that's not
Good
even
for
where
you,
my head
man.
went.
Good for you, brother.
That's not even really where my head went. But I could see it, man. I mean, this is the Wild West. Boxing literally has a mind of its own. We all have an opinion. It's good, it's bad, it's ugly. It's going in a lot of different directions. And for me personally, this is why I have my favorite fighters. I have my biasness, but I strictly try to practice sticking to styles. I think styles make fights, and I enjoy that aspect of it.
Indeed, brother.
That's where I'm at. But again, Rolly sucks, man. I like Rolly. He used
He's
to be a nice
terrible
kid,
fighter. He doesn't know how to
but
fight, does he?
yeah, his stance reminds me of like a fat kid who's learning how to box. And
Well, his stance directly comes from martial arts. He's still learning on the job. He's got one of the most talented trainers in boxing, very astute guy, and a guy who gets on your ass if you don't listen. But Rolly is still learning the job. He started boxing very late.
And real fast.
Go ahead, sir.
Real
I'm
fast,
sorry.
like that's cool too. No beef with that. Look, whether we like it.
Got like a brumpy cut there. So what is Steph? Steph.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
My
We can
bad.
hear you now, sir.
My bad. Yeah, I mean, Rolly's backed. He's heavily promoted by Mayweather Promotions. He's also heavily ranked with the WBA. He's always been with them. We must have forgot that he was a secondary holder for quite a while, for most of his junior early career. So, I mean, it is what it is. But he's bad. He's bad television. That's why I turned it off. And that's that.
Voice, please.
He's terrible. He's terrible, and he doesn't know how to fight, guys.
Yeah,
Look, he's got one good punch, that straight right hand down the middle, the overhand right? He doesn't even know how to use the jab to set it up. Like he doesn't even know he's a counterpuncher, and when faced with a counterpuncher like it was last night, didn't even know how to throw a feint to try to disrupt the timing and rhythm of his counterpunching opponent, which is essential to land the big shot. He is terrible. And once again, you can't say it's money because there is no money attached to Rolly Romero. None. Zero. Not a huge ticket seller. Not a huge ratings draw.
I thought you were doing your best Charles Barkley impression, talking about he's terrible.
Man, he's just terrible.
Man,
he's just terrible. Man, he's worse than the women in San Antonio, man.
He's worse than women in San Antonio. Big old women. No, but
I love Charles, man. I love Charles.
Who doesn't, my friend?
But like you were saying in reference to Rolly Romero, like his stance is just way off. I know that we talk about his background in judo and stuff like that, and how he still looks like he tries to use those stances when he's there in the ring or something like that. But here in this fight against a guy that was, significantly slowed down in Romero-Barroso, a guy that was, a clear southpaw that had his, lead hand down, so to speak. He just, one, he couldn't really take advantage of that. Two, you seen that Barroso was having the battle with his lead foot outside of Rolly Romero.
Yep.
And I'm like, at the very least, you at your status there, you would at least try to have your lead foot on the outside of Barroso and then try to be, the aggressor there. Whether it's setting up feints or just throwing lead right hands, you would have had that all day. But on the flip side, he allowed Barroso to do that early and often, and that's how he got caught in the third round, because it was just two left hands that were coming in from Barroso that he just didn't really have any defense for. He didn't put his right hand up. He didn't, try to do something in order to get out of the way from it or nothing. And that's pretty much what you saw for most of that fight. Even after the third round was mostly, just Rolly Romero just trying to get away from those punches of Barroso, whether they were few and far between or not. And it was just something that was, an uneventful fight for 7 rounds.
Terrible fight.
It was like, geez, man, I was just like very, very disappointed in that. And I'm like, going into the fight, I'm like, okay, this is Rolly Romero's opportunity I'll say, okay, I get this spot, right? Like you were saying, Joe, I get this spot to fight for a world title, and I could do it where I could win impressively. I could build, some type of momentum so that, regardless of who will want to face me at this particular point, I would at least have that type of momentum. But he had zero momentum going, through this bout, and like I said, was losing significantly in a couple of those judges' scorecards up to that 9th round. So that was crazy. But going back to what you were saying, Joe, reference to the WBA and this whole situation in general, like we go back to I'm saying all the way back to the point where you had Alberto Puello getting the vacant belt, right? That was over in Hollywood, Florida. And then a couple months after, they had this situation where they worked it to where Rolly Romero was able to get into the rankings at 140. And that Alberto Puello was able to have what you would say,
Hey, Jay, real quick. Remember, he was always heavily ranked in the WBA. Like, he's linked with them. So just
right, yeah. That comes from when he won the interim WBA lightweight title. Back.
And what the hell is the interim WBA anyway? That's their third. Now I have to correct you, Bass. I'm sorry, my apologies, sir. Steph. They already had 2 distinctions, and Gervonta Davis had the red title. Right. So that means he was the 3rd title holder in that 135-pound weight division in his 9th or 10th pro fight?
Sure.
Pretty much. They had the interim title, they had the regular title, they had
that's just title, garbage.
And in some cases, they even had a gold title, So it was
I remember they gave that to Manuel Char in the heavyweight division, the gold distinction.
Yep.
Right?
So WBA had all of that mess going on for years. But then you had the thing where, like I said, Puello gets the belt, and the WBA granted him a voluntary defense. That's what I was looking for. A voluntary defense outside of, facing Ismael Barroso, because he was going to be facing Ismael Barroso right after the Akhmadov fight. So they gave him that voluntary defense. And, people were talking about the whole thing with Gary Antoine Russell and whatever it is. I'm like, all right, whatever. But you still had Rolly Romero in the conversation, and they said, well, okay, we could give you this voluntary defense against Rolly Romero. So Rolly gets into that position, without fighting anything at the 140-pound division. So that tells you how crazy the WBA is, going into this whole
terrible.
like me and Joseph was explaining or talking about, a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago or so, you got Ismael Barroso that's one way or another involved with somebody within the World Boxing Association.
Well, no. I won't sugarcoat it. I'll go ahead and say it.
All right, go ahead.
Guys, Gilberto Mendoza Jr., just like his dad, they manage fighters from Venezuela. Okay, Gabriel Maestre, he got a terrible gift decision against Michael Fox last year. That's not a coincidence. Because once again, Gilberto Mendoza Jr. manages fighters. Now, why is a president of a sanctioning body managing fighters? That's nonsense, guys, and that's clear corruption. But if you think Tony Weeks is in on the deal, one, it wasn't benefiting, Gilberto Mendoza's guy, the guy who was winning the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony Weeks, guys, he's a man of integrity. And I see in the comments section, he's a ref that, he stopped Ward versus Kovalev 2. The only people who saw that stoppage as an incorrect one were people rooting for Sergey Kovalev because he was hurt to the body. Oh, those were low blows. No, he was hurt to the body, and Andre Ward figured it out after the first fight. He's a donut fighter who doesn't have anything on the inside and cannot stand. Now, once again, you drink vodka as much as Sergey Kovalev, those shots to the liver are unbearable.
Yep.
And trust me, talk to Tony Weeks about this right afterwards. Yeah, he was headed for the exit door, and he knew it. So he called a halt to the bout. I didn't see anything wrong with that stoppage. Did you, James?
Nope, not when Tony Weeks before the fight, when you had the pre-fight instructions, where you check the trunks.
Yep.
He showed where Kovalev's trunks were. They were pretty high, so you had it to the point where, hey, if Ward could hit that particular spot, that's not a low blow, but
that's it. And once again, it didn't work for Amir Khan, or didn't work for Zab Judah versus Amir Khan, and it didn't work for Sergey Kovalev against Andre Ward. Hey, brother, can you pull up Sly's latest comment? This is hilarious. But Joe, Teddy Allen, once again, you talk about someone who's the king of conspiracy theories in boxing. Of course, I know you're playing, my friend, and I love that. That's why I said pull it up. Teddy is there's a reason, guys, why he cannot get a job anywhere talking about boxing any longer, because he's an idiot who knows the sport of boxing, but he truly believes that it's a corrupt sport, and he always brings it up. And this is a guy who should know better. Who should know better, guys. Once again, sit down and talk with these guys. Sit down and talk with these judges, with these refs. They work for the commission, not any one promoter, not any sanctioning organization directly. They work for these state athletic commissions. And when you look at his history and you look how liberal he has been, guys, and Ham Rothstein, right? I love that moniker, by the way. Thank you for joining us, brother. And he says, if the ref wasn't paid off, then Weeks needs to see a doctor for cognitive disorder. I will tell you, he does need to see a doctor, and they're called psychiatrists, because, this is weighing heavily on his conscience and his soul.
Yeah.
And he is obviously shaken by the Aidos Yerbasanala decision to allow him to continue, giving him the benefit of the doubt, and then indirectly putting him in a coma that cost him his career.
Right.
It happens, guys.
Yep. In those things are stuff that these referees kind of talk about in, whether it's the commissions or, when they speak, with other referees, they kind of go over those things. Like I remember, like last year when they had the Hall of Fame weekend, International Hall of Fame weekend over in Kansas City, New York. They had those referees like Tony Weeks there. Who else would you know that would be part of it?
Kenny Bayless.
Yeah,
Or
Kenny
like,
Bayless.
look, guys,
Yep.
and once again, yeah, I'm sorry, but to your point, earlier this year, guys, we saw one of boxing's royalty, third man in the ring, Kenny Bayless, screw up a huge fight in David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant.
Yeah, Caleb Plant. Yep.
He really screwed that up. Once again, guys, when you get to a certain age and you can't perform any longer, it's time for you to step down. Okay? Yep. That's it. I'm sorry, as you were, James. My apologies, sir.
And actually, you know, that's a key point, because that's why, you know, you have something where you kind of pay attention to, and I think like a couple of people in social media have like posted this. Now it's like, okay, now more people are starting to see, okay, who's going to be the referee in these main events now? You know, when they had the thing with Kenny Bayless, they were looking to see like, okay, who's going to be the referee for Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia? What was that going to be? Like, who was that going to be? You know what I'm saying? So they're like, hey, is it going to be like one of these referees that's been in the game for 20, 25 plus years or whatever it is, or somebody that, you know, kind of like is still, you know, alert, fully, you know.
Thomas Taylor was a great choice. Thomas Taylor was a great choice.
Yeah. So like having someone like Thomas Taylor there, you know, that was, you know, good, because, you know, he's at least there that's, you know, aware of the situation and things, and is, you know, able to be in position for, you know, certain things, that he can see certain things. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, look, I'm sorry. Go ahead, James. My apologies, sir.
So having somebody that, you know, could be like very experienced could be a positive for in some cases, but when you've been there for so long and you can't really like see things that, you know, that you kind of like seen earlier in your career, then that means like, hey, you might have to, you know, fall back on a couple of these major events, because, you know, there's a lot of things could be on the line on them. And you got to have a referee that's, you know, on point, you know, for something like that, you know.
Yep. And to your point, James,
go ahead.
Veteran referee, one of my favorite referees, who did never put up with any nonsense. He blew several calls late in his career, and he had no choice but to step down. I'm referring to my brother, veteran referee Robert Byrd, who was largely considered one of the most competent referees in boxing until he blew several calls where he just couldn't officiate properly. Guys, that's the same thing with Kenny Bayless. And I'm saying now that's the same thing after 2 blown consecutive calls for the polar opposite things. Okay, Tony Weeks, as he's seen enough, he's got to pull the trigger on his career. He has to. Like, he has to, man. And once again, if this was supposed to enhance Rolly's career, and once again, he's not a ticket seller, and if he thought he was before, now once again,
I don't know if Joe might be outside of something now. He just got, you know, quickly cut there or something, but, you know, he was talking about the thing there with
hell is going to want to see that. Yeah. Who the hell's going to pay for that?
Hey, Joe, you kind of like got cut off there in the middle of that one, because you were talking about, you know, Rolly being a ticket seller, and then it.
My apologies. And then he immediately calls out Ryan Garcia.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, who the hell's going to want to see that? No. Once again, this did not enhance his career. Far from it. The real bosses of boxing are not going to want to support that guy. Right. And definitely not on a pay-per-view. I will say this, though, and I don't mean this to be a segue into your next topic. I'm just going to say this. Jack Reese, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He should have been in Vegas, and Tony Weeks should have been in Stockton, California last night. Because did you see how long Jack Reese allowed Steve Butler to get punished by Janibek Alimkhanuly?
Not that long, man.
Oh, my, no, dude. He let it go way longer than it should have been. I'm like, dude, stop the damn fight. Wait. And I love to see fighters go on their shield, go out in their shield. And I'm like, damn, Jack, what, dude? Come on, man.
Hey, I know that I have this.
Jack Reese should have been in Vegas. Tony Weeks, if you've got a quick trigger finger, you should have been in Stockton last night, brother.
I have this first quick comment from Cringe Bro. Says he feels bad for Rolly. He might get crushed in his next fight if he fights the likes of Teofimo or Josh Taylor or even O'Hara Davies at this point. Well, they say that O'Hara Davies is the next guy up.
Dude, how many mandatories does the WBA have, dude? Come on.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. It's crazy. But I was just looking at something that you posted, Joe. You had retweeted something from somebody saying the face of boxing changes weekly, and you put in there Yoga Flame. Come on, man. Dude,
don't look like Dalzim, doesn't he?
Come on, he don't look like Dalzim.
Look, and that's the guy. If anyone feels bad, now once again, I understand that Ismael Barroso, Dalzim, shouldn't have even been in the ring last night fighting for a major world title. But boy, the guy knocking on heaven's door, that 80-year-old man had some pep in his step. He had the hand speed advantage. He had the technique advantage. Mm-hmm. Boy, that straight left hand was coming in beautifully.
Yeah.
Once again, man, I'm like, dude, this old geezer's going to kick Rolly's ass as early as the first round. You saw the disparity in skill. You saw the disparity in hand speed, technique, foot placement, everything. I'm like, holy shnikes, Rolly's going to get whooped. And last night, it wasn't a hard fight to score.
It wasn't. Sure wasn't. And
I mean, Ismael Dalzim Barroso, Yoga Fire, was kicking his ass.
Yeah, man.
He turned Rolly Romero, once again, after getting knocked out by Gervonta Davis and then getting floored early in that fight. It turned him into a very tentative, gun-shy fighter who was questioning his own endurance.
It turned him into Adrian Broner in the back half of his career.
Yep. Basically a non-active fighter looking for one punch, and he didn't even know how to deliver it. Once again, against a counterpuncher with good technique. You've got to use feints. You've got to work behind an intelligent jab. And unfortunately, Rolly doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah, he just doesn't. And hey, Rolly's gonna be Rolly. So I mean, if he gets like one of those type of fights there against against a Ryan Garcia, which I doubt is gonna happen, or like another fight where he gets like a amount of money or a significant amount of money for it, then it's just that he just got in and got the opportunity and was able to cash in. He basically got the money in the bank suitcase. Well, at least he thinks he does right now.
The money in the bank. So,
yeah,
dude. Yeah, I tell you what, you can call right now Rolly Romero the Erwin R. Shyster of boxing. IRS, brother. But you know what? I will say this. Last night's card. And I told you this leading up to the fight. I'm like, you know what, dude? After all the great work that PBC and Showtime have done all year, arguably one of the best starts to a year they've had in decades since Ken Hirschman were there, right? And then you put this crap on Showtime Championship Boxing. That's disgraceful, brother. I can guarantee you on Ken Hirschman's watch, back in the day, when Showtime was absolutely lights out, he would have never paid for this crap in the main event of the evening. The only thing I can say is thank God for Kenneth Sims and Akhmadov for letting their balls hang in the ring last night.
Yeah,
that would have been a colossal shit show. That stuff is embarrassing for boxing. Now, James, I'm going to ask you this. Would you even think about telling your mainstream sports friends, right, about that card last night?
Okay. I wouldn't, but given the circumstances, like before this, They would have had, a little bit of a better card. And this is like outside of, the whole main event thing. I remember they would have had Gary Antoine versus Kent Cruz on the card as well. But that kind of got scrapped out. So regardless, they wanted to fit in something on that particular date at that particular venue. So they've had these type of cards at the Cosmopolitan before, but there was I think there was one that had like the main event. I think what was it?
Look, man, I covered Tim Bradley and Brandon Rios at the Cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
And it was packed to the gills and fans were excited and they saw a slugfest. That's the kind of shit that you pay for if you're Steven Espinosa. Come on, Steven.
I gotta verify something though. I think this was like a while. It was like what 2021, but nope, that was at the park. It wasn't at the Cosmopolitan. The Figueroa Fulton fight that was at the park.
Oh yeah, that was in Carson, California. Yeah,
that wasn't at.
Well, let me ask you something, brother. You're the news guy, and you live in the DMV area. Why the hell was Gary Antoine Russell suspended?
It's not a suspension. Those I don't know why they have it extended, but he's injured. Like he has.
Oh, that's why. See, because I was told that he was suspended, and I'm like, what the hell did he get suspended for?
Yeah, nah, he was injured. That's why he was removed off this
Understood.
card in Vegas. So
understood. Now leading into these events, James, we talked about this on Wednesday night, right on my channel. And I told you, I said, look, I'll be honest, guys. I can't stand either fight card. I'm not looking forward to either one.
Right.
The one in Stockton on ESPN is a paid infomercial view, and that is a colossal mismatch in the main event of the evening.
Yeah.
And the only reason why Gabe Flores is on that card is because he's the only ticket seller on that lineup, and he's from Stockton. And did you see the layup that they gave him?
Oh, man,
he knocked that dude out in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
A guy with pillow fists knocked that guy out in 30 seconds. And they did that because he was fighting in front of their hometown fans. And I'm like, dude, this fight card sucks. And I never say that about top-ranked fight cards on ESPN. Never.
Yeah, usually. Yeah,
and dude, we warned you guys that was going to be the case this weekend. Terrible weekend for boxing. Terrible,
and really bad.
Terrible.
and yeah, that was in that thing going into the ESPN portion of the card. I know that Cringe is bringing this up. Of course, she had there in Stockton, California, Janibek getting the win over Steven Butler in 2 rounds. Also, Jason Maloney getting a decision win over Vincent Ashalabio with a scorecard that was similar to that Akhmadov Sims card or whatnot.
Split decision.
That Akhmadov Sims card was a much better fight than
oh my gosh. Look. I will say this about Maloney. Congratulations, 3rd time's a charm, winning your first world title, but dude, that movement he was doing was driving me nuts, and it wasn't doing anything to control range. I'm like, why are you moving around like that?
Yeah.
You're not doing anything. Like Astrolabio was sitting in the center of the ring, controlling the action. He's like, okay, I'm just going to pivot with you. I'm not going to move from this point. And as soon as you stop moving, I'm going to crack you with a big right hand.
Yep.
And he did all night. I had Astrolabio winning that fight.
Yeah, it was just a real I just felt like it was not, of course it wasn't up to par of what.
Well, I will say this though, brother. It was more eventful than, and we called this Omar Juarez versus Rancis Barthelemy.
Oh, yeah, man.
That was terrible. And once again, I'm like, Omar better not come back to Texas crying that he was robbed. And that's exactly what they're doing today. Oh. And I'm like, brother.
He had the chance. And you seen what he was doing in the
A
last
guy
round
like
too,
that.
right?
Yep. You let a guy like that be beat you, a guy that's largely inactive and throws as many punches as Guillermo Rigondeaux. You let that guy beat you. And here's the reason why. Omar Juarez. Once again, I love his trainer, Rick Nunez. He's a great guy, and he's one of my best friends in this business. Love the guy. In fact, I'm gonna be a ring announcer for one of his cards. He's also a promoter here in town. In August. But, dude, it's obvious, man. He didn't prepare him. You look, dude, use the intelligent jab. Close the distance behind the high guard. You don't try to fight Francis Barthélemy from mid to long range. A Cuban exile who's gone through that amateur system
and has that much taller than you, and you give him that type of a range.
And he's a bigger puncher. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Obvious he didn't prepare, didn't know how to apply intelligent pressure. So, brother, if you lost that fight, wasn't the judges that screwed you. It's just a difference in level, man. You better prepare if you want to compete at this level, even if it's against someone like Francis. Brother, do your damn homework and learn how to apply intelligent pressure. Welcome to big time boxing.
Well, and here was the thing too. It's like this is the same instance where he had like a spot or a spot like in Showtime boxing, and you go against a notable fighter like Francis Barthélemy, you got to be able to take the reins and take over. Like you can't.
Yep.
You've seen someone with the experience level of Francis Barthélemy, so you should have enough tape on him to see what he does, what his mannerisms are, and things like that. So try to push the action, try to make it as rough as possible, get him to the ropes, and then work him to the ropes. And it took him up until the 9th and 10th round to really do that. And you've seen there he had success in doing that. But if he had started that, from early, then you would be able to win those rounds where, a lot of times it just felt like there was no action in there because remember, like Francis Barthélemy really doesn't press, the action. He just, moves around, does feints here and there, might throw a couple jabs, and that's, what he does.
That's it. He doesn't deviate from that Cuban script.
Yeah. So, like, if you just do a little bit, you'll be able to score rounds there from the judges, and he just didn't necessarily do that. So he kind of blew that opportunity. But jumping back to that event there in Stockton, California, with the main event of Janibek Alimkhanuly versus Steven Butler. Steven Butler had been stopped in all of the losses that he had.
Come on, dude. That's a complete embarrassment. I was in shock for the matchmaker. I was embarrassed for the matchmakers at Top Rank.
Right. So this is the same guy that got stopped by Ryota Murata, who, outside of the one when he got in a rematch, where he won the belt, he isn't really known for really stopping guys. But I mean, geez, Steven Butler being put in this position, like, come on, man, like, what are you doing?
Terrible. Terrible.
And what was his thing here, man? Like, yeah, my thoughts, man. Is he a killer or was he fighting pies? Well, man. I don't like doing this.
Well, look. I'll say this, James. I'll say this. He's, Janibek is a one-trick pony, but that one trick he does at an elite level. He is one of the best counterpunchers in the sport. Right. And you look at his high ring IQ. Mm-hmm. As soon as Steven Butler showed him that look at taking the L step, trying to lunge in with that right hand. Oh, Janibek was like, oh, shit, I'm going to knock your ass out in 1 or 2 rounds. Because all I have to do is get used to your movement and speed, and I'm going to time you coming in either with the check right hook or straight left hand. And how did he hurt him? Once again, lunging in with that right and timed him with that straight left hand. And that was it. And when Janibek times you and you don't see that quick left out of the chute, you're not going to recover. And this is a guy with a deep amateur background. and one of the best closers when he has you hurt. So I will say he looks like a killer against guys who are aggressive and lunge in or just give him enough of those opportunities that let their hands go. But against another counterpuncher, he looks very ordinary. He still has a lot to learn in terms of being more assertive and using feints and trying to adapt to a fellow counterpuncher. He's still a work in progress, but boy, if he's fighting someone like Jaime Munguia, he gonna whoop his ass, brother.
Well,
Like Janibek
like
Janibek would look like a killer against a guy like Jaime Munguia.
Yeah, and it kind of goes to what you called, earlier in the week, when previewing this fight, is that when you have a guy that is, fairly aggressive, that, presses the action or tries to press the action, that's what Janibek likes, that you'll be able to counter him and that type of stuff. But if it's somebody that's, either kind of tentative or, also waits on the counter, then he doesn't, look all too good. So it's like, like the Denzel Bentley fight that he had last time. He was more of like a counter puncher, and he kind of like had, Janibek a little bit like off in a few of those occasions. But, Janibek was still able to, get through that fight and have, a sizable decision on there. But with someone like a Steven Butler, who, you could catch, reaching and that type of stuff, he's going to, really say that he's going to really look good in that particular instance. So if you match him up against someone like Jaime Munguia, then he probably would look good in that particular instance. But if it's someone like maybe Ida Squeever Falcao, that might look a bit,
Yep, both southpaw counterpunchers by trade, but also a guy who's tall, rangy, very intelligent jab, uses feints extremely well, like Jermall Charlo. Well, Janibek would get outpointed and torn up every time he tried to move forward and close a distance.
Yeah.
Like, he is brilliant against a more aggressive-minded fighter. But I will say this. Could you imagine how terrible a fight would look between Janibek and Demetrius Andrade?
See, and it would have been really horrible, regardless of who would have been able to get that fight. Okay.
Oh my gosh,
about, dude. Okay. See, here's the thing that people, and this goes into the whole business of boxing stuff, and we kind of went through this before when it came to this particular instance of Andrade and Janibek. They had the fight ordered. The fight went to a purse bid. Like in initially, one person, they didn't even, go through that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there was no money in it, so we weren't really interested in it. So that's how Andre just moved on and moved up. So people were talking about, that particular fight, this would have happened, that would have happened, that would have been a bad matchup all around. It would have been
terrible.
Sloppy. It would have been, as we say, terrible, and really bad. Okay?
It would have been would have been reminiscent, James. It would have been reminiscent of Chris Bird versus Devarro Williamson. Do you remember that?
No. What about this?
Oh, geez.
And people, and this was actually brought up, right? It would have probably reminded people of Francis Barthélemy versus Robert Easter Jr.
Oh, ain't dry. That was like watching grass grow, brother.
Oh man,
that was terrible. That was terrible. I will say this though, man. Let's do something fun here, though, guys.
All right, let's do that real quick.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, brother. So as you were, and then we'll play a little game after you're finished, okay?
All right, so back to the thing with Janibek and another topic there that we have in this particular show. Janibek gets the win over Steven Butler, quick second round knockout victory, and he calls out, Jamal Charlo and Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan. He says like, everybody's ducking me. This guy's ducking me. That guy's ducking
dude,
me.
shut up.
Come on. Canelo, come on, Charlo, let's do it.
Oh,
And I'm like,
jeez.
I'm like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, Janibek, you got to understand that people aren't that interested in you to like say, hey, you're really a feared guy there in the middleweight division. Like it's that ain't happening.
Y'all are rude.
You know. So I'm like, I don't know. They Top Rank, yeah, I think Top Rank kind of dropped the ball in this particular instance here. But they're gonna
someone's snoring, brother. Someone's sleeping.
Hey, who is that?
Who is that? Who is that?
Who's snoring?
Turo?
Who?
I guess so. I think Terrell's sleeping.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good.
Maybe Mike Grady.
No.
Yeah, but hey, maybe it was whole Janibek talking. Sometimes talk about Janibek could get people. But yeah, he's just a horrible matchup for he's not attractive as a overall fighter to sell. So Top Rank with Janibek right now, they kind of dropping the ball in that instance, man. And it ain't gonna be that good for him. He's probably gonna have another fight here later this year, but it ain't gonna be really attractive. And it's not like they're gonna have somebody like a Liam Smith to go up against him, or a Jaime Munguia, even though Jaime Munguia would probably get washed or whatever it is. Like, look, it ain't gonna work.
Real fast, Joseph. Real fast,
yes, sir.
Tell me something you do like about Janibek, though. Is there anything you do like?
Let me tell you. Well, I will say, boy, he's one of the best, sharpest, razor sharp counterpunchers in the entire game. Deep amateur background. Oh, his technique and his ring IQ is, good Lord, man. It's like neck and neck with someone like, who's another prolific counterpuncher, Guillermo Rigondeaux. When you look at his footwork, when you look at his ability to spot deficiencies in his opponents who are more aggressive-minded, if you give him that tell and you show your hand in the first round, you're not going to make it out of the second. He is razor sharp when he's dealing with a more aggressive-minded fighter. Like, if you're Jaime Munguia, you stay, and there's a reason why he had the opportunity to fight him twice. And his management team and Golden Boy Promotions, they just never petitioned the WBA for that matchup because Janibek would carve him up like a Thanksgiving turkey. But I will say this, and last night, I can guarantee you, giving Brad Goodman and Bruce Trampler the benefits of the doubt, because they're two Hall of Fame matchmakers and the current best in the business. With that said, I know exactly why they put him in with a terrible mismatch like Steven Butler, because they love that reputation of the monster, the most avoided man in boxing, and they want to try and increase his ability to sell tickets, because right now he couldn't sell out my living room on a Saturday night. And unfortunately, the only way they're going to get other people, more credible opponents in the ring with him, okay, is they need to enhance his level of attraction and his marketability. Because if they don't, he's going to be the next Boo-Boo Andrade, who is the other avoided WBO middleweight champion for that same reason.
Nicely done. Nicely said.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
They are running with it, the boogeyman thing. I've seen him fight about
that's what they're trying to do. Bass.
Right. I've seen him about 2 or 3 times. I've seen some rounds of him. His southpaw thing is getting better. But like you said, Mr. Herring, he needs to be marketed well. Perhaps, start being quirky and, speaking English and really trying to get out there.
What?
Perhaps that would help.
That's a great idea, because look how well it worked for Gennady Golovkin. Everyone wanted him to speak English at the end of the fight. Max, he good boy. They need something like that for Janibek. I'm like, are you serious? Are you
I'm curious
serious?
too. Like, I know like Top Rank's kind of like, what's a good description? Like, in a sense, like corporal. They don't really have a lot of spokespeople as far as like promotion coming out. You just kind of see Carl Moretti and
Well,
Bob will make his appearance.
I
Do
will
they have
say
someone who
this.
could do that for their fighters?
It used to be, and they need someone terribly like now. If you look at if you subscribe to their YouTube page and frequent the Top Rank page, they have their recurrent ring announcer who, guys, if you aren't familiar
I
with
was just about to mention he's the one who does it all.
He's the one who does it all. He is a former Broadway actor, singer, and have you ever heard him sing? That's why he's got those pipes. He's a great singer. Great singer, has that charisma because he's an actor. He's the logical choice, and he's trying to integrate and take over because Bob used to be the mouthpiece. Like everyone wanted to. Let's hear what Bob has to say. But look, at 90, was he 92 now?
Yeah, around 91, 92, yeah.
Okay, so look, Bob just doesn't have the energy or the demeanor. Honestly, he'll tell guys to FO if you're not careful. Right? Or he's like, I don't have time for this shit. So he used to be, though, one of the best mouthpieces in boxing back in his heyday. The only guy who was better, really, was Don King. But other than that, though, they're trying to incorporate their current ring announcer as being the guy, as the PR, the Sam Watson, so to speak, for Top Rank. Because I tell you what, Sam Watson, have you ever spoken to him in the media? That guy's hilarious. In fact, PBC is now underutilizing Sam Watson. Yeah, because I don't know one person in boxing, media, who works any job, who doesn't love Sam Watson. That guy's hilarious. Oh yeah, he's always the most charismatic and funniest guy at these events.
Well, Showtime too. Yeah, I say Showtime because they got a little more corporate too, where like it's just kind of one head of like their departments who's running the show. That's why you get a lot of Steven. And back to the gentleman for Top Rank. Yeah, I noticed that probably about a year, maybe 18 months ago. I did notice that coming out of COVID, and then with the multimedia, think Instagram, he's definitely in the mix. I see him, and I like it actually. I like it.
Yeah, they tried to have I'm sorry, I forgot the young lady's name, the one that kind of
Poucher.
Yes, Christina Poncher. Yeah. They tried to have her, but she didn't have that same charisma, and she didn't have that
same. She can't stick up for herself.
That's right. She didn't have that same no nonsense filter that Bob has, right? And she's too PC. And so that they went ahead and ixnayed that. They said, let's change gears because this isn't working really. And so now they're trying the ring announcer. And he's got the charisma, he's got the voice, and it's just only a matter of time. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, that tenor.
He's a great singer, man. And dude, I'm a singer, so I'm very critical.
I didn't know that.
He's got
That's
talent.
Fact.
Yeah, I'm a singer. If I had my camera on, you'd see that I have long hair, and that's why I'm a ring announcer commentator. Because I've been working on my voice. I used to sing opera for 7 years.
Lovely.
Shout out to the live chat going in here.
Sing now.
Yo.
Sing now.
Oh no.
You want me to sing now? After I've been yelling? Yeah. Okay, no problem. What do you want me to sing, brother?
All right.
Let's see. Let's do French, right? You want to hear French?
Oui, oui.
La lune blanche dans la voix de chaque branche par l'une voix sur la rame. Oh, bien-aimé. I'm sorry, guys. My voice is fatigued because I just finished doing a press conference for 2 hours, and then now I'm yelling on James's show. My apologies.
Impromptu opera on the Boxing Source radio show there.
Boxing Source first.
Joseph Herring.
Next time, though, Mr. Herring, you got to do American because we're American.
Okay,
so
hold on, guys. Hold on. Let's do American, right? Well, no. Let me think about it, and I'll get back to you.
Like,
But
we're like, what?
I promise,
Yeah.
I will sing something in English. Let's do a rock song, something that I'm well versed in now, right? So I'll think about what piece, and before the show ends, I'll nail you guys with a popular English rock song, right?
We'll close the show out with that one there. So
Yeah, I'll
Sweet
think
Emotion.
about it, brother.
all right.
Sweet Emotion.
Shout out to Kid
I
Bandit
used to
in the
play that
building.
song in a cover band, believe it or not. Yeah. Okay. Let me give you this while I'm thinking about the song. Right, I was thinking more Chris Cornell, like Black Hole Sun or something. I'll close the show out with
That's
that.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
Do you know Soundgarden?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do Black Hole Sun by the late Chris Cornell and Soundgarden before we exit. But
Like that
guys, I'm
grunge.
going to ask you a question. Play a game, guys. Play a game.
All right.
Yeah.
Can you
Do that
think
for the next time.
now? Once again, Rolly is an official champion at 140 pounds. Can you think of a worse world champion than Rolly Romero in recent history? Guys, I'm here to tell you, he makes James Buster Douglas look like Lennox Lewis.
He makes
Canine Bundridge look like Sugar Ray Robinson. Those are two
It's up
terrible
there.
titles.
Gary Russell's up there for me. Gary Russell's up there for me.
Somebody.
Yeah, Paul Butler. That's a good one too. 15 minutes.
Gosh.
Charles
Yeah,
Martin for 15
Oh,
minutes.
jeez.
Yeah. That might be
uh,
Butler. Hey, I don't know, man. That might be a poll question right there. Who
Kambosos for 15 minutes.
Rolly Romero or Paul Butler? Who? Oh, no! Someone may have beat them.
Oh, hey man! At the end of the day, he's gonna be able to say he was unified.
Right here.
That's pretty good, though. It's pretty good.
That's a boxing
pretty good.
academic's favorite fighter right there. So I don't know, man. I'm a note that right there, right?
I'm
There's a
sorry.
lot.
Who did you say, James? Who did you say?
Like who
Look
would
at
be
this.
even worse? No, Isso put in Julius Ndongo.
Brother,
Nah,
Julius
man. Both
Ndongo
sucks, bro.
was a unified champion who actually knocked out an undefeated Russian fighter in his hometown, Eddie the Eagle.
Yeah, Chernovsky.
That's right. That's right.
Chernovsky wanted Crawford too, man.
And boy, he was a knockout artist going into that Ndongo fight, and he got his ass smoked like a cheap cigar in the first round.
Yeah,
Crawford should have took it. He could have unified at 35. Or I'm sorry, 40.
Well, 40 before that, but he still became undisputed there. But I'm still note that down. Like who's the worst champion
That was
in
pretty
recent
funny.
memory? It's gonna have Rolly Romero. It's gonna have Paul Butler. It's gonna have Julius Ndongo. I don't know. I might have one other person on the poll. Who knows? But that's gonna be
Real quick, too, James. I wanted to sneak this in there. I don't know if you guys were talking about it, but since we're talking about Rolly and 40, look, y'all might think it's controversial, but it's not to me. Dude, 140 sucks. Nothing stands out for me, man.
That's very controversial, in my opinion. That's actually that's arguably the most underrated and deepest talent-rich division in boxing.
It's really, is it? Make a case then, Harry. Mr. Harry,
Okay,
because
brother.
I don't see it anymore.
Here we go. No, you can just use my last name. I don't need Mr. behind it. That's my dad.
Word.
So Heron's cool. Heron's cool, brother. So let me pull up right now. Right? I'm going to pull up the middleweight top 20 and just rattle off the top 20
You said
for
middleweight? You said middleweight?
No, my apologies. Junior welterweight top 20.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I'm going to rattle off the top 20 and show you how much deeper this division is than you realize. Okay? I will prove it right here. Oh, hold on, guys. And then after this, I'll sing some Soundgarden for you. So I just pulled up the lyrics, right? Oh, I love Soundgarden and Chris Cornell. He's one of my favorite rock singers of all time. Hold on. It's super light now, right?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Here we go, guys. Regis Prograis, Teofimo Lopez, Jose Ramirez, Arnold Barbosa, Gary Antoine Russell, Sandor Martin, Subriel Matias, Alberto Puello, right? We haven't even got out of the top 10 yet. Jose Pedraza, Richardson Hitchens, Gabriel Golas Valenzuela, who just jumped up to number 12 after the upset over Stevie Smart, Richard Comey, Jose Zepeda, O'Hara Davies, Sergey Lipinets, Brandon Lee, Montana Love, Liam Barro, Jeremias Ponce, Kenneth Sims Jr., Bordazan Akhmadov, Elvis Rodriguez. Should I keep going?
I thought Kenny's win last night was a draw, actually, in real time.
I love that fight, and it could have gone either way. And you could argue that
And that's my
Akhmadov,
guy.
all three of his losses could have easily gone the other way. He could easily, potentially be an undefeated fighter right now.
To me, it was a draw real time, but I'm not mad at it or either guy winning it. They should probably run that back. But go ahead, Jay.
And Joe, you didn't mention the former undisputed champion.
Josh Taylor.
Yep.
That's right. Because he's been inactive, right? They took him off the list. So Josh Taylor. Yes, that's right. He's a current title holder. So is that really a terrible division? Look at all that talent I just named in the top 20.
I want to respond. I didn't really finish my statement earlier. I just think it's top heavy, gentlemen. I just think it's top heavy. I think there's some contenders. Then I think there's a lot of suck. I mean, honestly,
compared to what other division, sir?
I'm not comparing to another division because a lot of those guys are either moving in, should be moving out, but they're not moving out because they know they don't have an advantage in the next division. So whatever that means to anybody. But like take Josh Taylor. What the hell is he gonna do? He's been at 140 forever. Same thing with Regis. I'll get on him in a moment. Josh, you should probably move up to 47, but man, some tough fights await you there if you go. Starting with Terrence, since you got his name in your mouth all the time. And I love Josh. I still have him. If I still had a pound for pound, I still would have him on there because he has, just by competition level, has raised to the bar. He made some good decisions, and I picked against him in a lot of it. But you move on to Regis. Regis just signed away to just pretty much he's not going to be fighting any smoke anytime soon. And that's fine. And yeah, I know you're probably going to say Richardson Hitchens. I think he's okay. I don't think he's anything special. I think he's just okay. I've seen a few outings with him, but just okay. You said Jose Ramirez. I love him to death, man, but it seems like he's just in neutral and not really wanting to do much. And they don't really have a lot there for him right now. Pollo, I mean, question marks because A, now you could be labeled as a cheat, and then B, even if you were good beforehand, how much was cheating? So question marks.
Let me ask you, what do you think? Once again, just remember what you're going to say. But what do you think of Alberto Puello's current reason for testing positive for clomiphene? Oh, guys, have some sympathy for me and my young bride. We're trying to have a kid, and I have a low sperm count. So that's the only reason why I was taking clomiphene, because everyone knows it's a fertility drug. It just happens to enhance your level of testosterone, but I wasn't taking it to have an unfair advantage against some of my opponents. It just so happens that it turned out that way.
No comment. Whomever he's rep by needs to come up with the evidence for whomever wants to know that. I don't really want to know that. I just want to see what he looks like in the ring. I do remember what I was going to say. On to Gary Antoine, who I'm very high on, and it took me. I wasn't so much in the beginning, but I was just impressed with. I'm always impressed with when young men and women can get in there and get away with some W's, get away with some wins. It counts. I don't care how you get it. His hands are very fast. I think that's his best advantage going into fights. He's just using his head for defense, but he's talented. And let me say this too, and this goes for all my favorite boxers, or anyone out there really. dude, you guys need help, man. Go get with a trainer who you can respect or bring in and learn your weaknesses and learn your combinations and all what you need to work on, because a lot of our favorite boxers, to me, guys, like, when I say sucks too, I know I'm like exaggerating with that, but it's like, come on, man, some of the adjustments that you do or don't make in the ring, it just kills me. So I'm just
well,
like,
you know
when I
what?
hear
That raises another problem in boxing that most fans don't realize, and it's been happening for I guess the past 20 years, James, is that, and it just happened to Joe Goosen. In other sports, right? The owner in the front office of a team or a franchise, they'll hire the head coach so he can chew that ass to the players. In boxing, well, he's the guy who writes your checks. Your fighter, that's your boss, in essence. And if you push too hard, these entitled bitches these days, pardon my French, they will scrap your ass. They will move on and they'll say, you know, I don't like the way he talks to me. That's why a 5-decade fight badass, 5-decade badass like James Gogi does not want to work in America any longer, because they have a spoiled, entitled mindset these days, and they do not want to listen to someone chew that ass. That's a big problem right now in the current business of boxing, because the guys writing the checks do not want to be talked to the way old school trainers used to do it. Why do you think Abel Sanchez is no longer in the business? For that same reason, guys.
Yeah.
That's a big problem in boxing right now.
And you know, like, and that's why some of those guys aren't my favorites. And that's why I don't really necessarily talk about those guys or even disparage them, really, because the work is in the pudding. The data's out there. It shows. I'm watching real time and looking at for certain things. And it's like, no. And then when I come into forums like this and we start debating and talking, it's like, man, what debate are you talking about? That guy cannot beat that guy. But you know, that's neither here nor there. But back to 140 real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's really top heavy. And then Teofimo, man, poor Teofimo, man. I've never been high on him simply because I don't think he's not that good because he doesn't put it together. Never has. I just think he's been fast tracked, backed, and can walk the walk and talk the talk, good, bad, and ugly. That's what it looks like. But I'm talking about him in the ring. He has not progressed. He's regressed in some nature. He just, again, has the best 135 win over Loma when he unified. And the blessing is he gets to be in championship bouts and is racking up some championship rounds against some good fighters. It's just unfortunate that, like I just said moments ago, that you need some training. Yes, Trill, because he sucks. So, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to disparage this guy.
I'll
I don't want to
say poor
disparage this guy.
Teofimo. I'll say poor Teofimo as well, because he's a head case and he doesn't have quality mentoring that a young athlete needs. Someone needs to help that kid, right? Because he's a head case and he's ruining his own career. Well,
hang on real fast on that. I know what you mean when you say that, but I mean, fuck. This is, as of now, I'm going to come back to my fandom real fast. I asked for this, the best to fight the best. I don't think Tio is elite by any standard, but again, like I said, this is a blessing. He gets to fight Josh Taylor. So get in there and get your ass whipped or not. Even though I think he is, that's just what it is, man. And he's got some scalps on his record, win, lose, or draw. Just that's what I think with a lot, not just him, with a lot of people, man. They need to really work on their game, fine-tune their game. And the guys who I harp about, and my favorites, you know, I have a list of them. I think those guys work real hard, and their resumes prove it. It's nothing to be said. There's just, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, the thing is, with like guys on the, like you were talking about with Teofimo, I mean, he, you know, got into a position to get into, and then, took advantage of what he had there against Lomachenko, and he's kind of like, built off of that. So now he's in another position where he's in another high-profile fight against Josh Taylor in a few weeks, or pretty much a month from now. And, we'll see how he does in that. Either he'll, step up to the occasion, or, he'll fall short. But as long as, he doesn't fall short miserably, then he'll still have some type of relevance. Got another guest on here that may chip in with the next topic. Brother Yemi is coming in here for this particular podcast. I know that you wanted to talk about Loma versus Haney. You wanted to start on that?
What's up, Jimbo?
Yeah. Salute, guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, Lomachenko Haney. I mean, for me, it's one of the biggest fights in the sport. It's the undisputed lightweight championship between two elite guys. You got Lomachenko, a Hall of Famer. You got Devin Haney, who probably is a future Hall of Famer. The winner of this is a top pound for pound, top 10 pound for pound guy. So, I think it's it's a great fight that's coming up.
What's a shame? What's a shame is where Garcia Davis was sold out in a day. Yeah, they're having problems selling the upper deck at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, the same facility, or a lesser facility. They had that one at the T-Mobile Arena. This one's at the MGM in Haney's hometown. They're having a hard time selling tickets.
Yeah. I kind of seen that coming, but
And this is the real 135-pound championship, undisputed, to determine supremacy in that talent and rich division.
Yep,
that's a shame.
I think Vegas is one of the hardest places to sell out in the world because it's got no sort of built-in foundation of a sort of a population. Most of the fans that come there are tourists or flying in. So this is why, it's hard, man. Not everyone can put on big events in Vegas like Tank Davis. He needed Ryan Garcia to headline his first card in Vegas.
Well, Haney needs a personality transplant to actually sell out someplace in Vegas. And once again, I feel bad for the kid. He's doing all the right things, and he's doing all the right things talking to mainstream media outlets. And unfortunately, he's never been a ticket seller, and he's fighting in his hometown, and no one seems to give a shit. And that's a real problem. And once again, this just shows the disparity and why the change in sentiment from the promoters and the networks. They don't care about appeasing the diehards any longer because, hey, let's just face it, guys. They want to sell. They want to sell items, and diehards just aren't purchasing it right now. So that's why you see promoters and networks trying to devise ways to get the mainstream and casual sports fans involved. That's why you're seeing shit like Jake Paul, shit like KSI. That's why you're seeing this nonsense.
To be fair to the hardcores, I mean, when have the boxing promoters really gone out of their way to give hardcores consistent quality of product, though? They usually service shit 90% of the time.
Good Lord, dude. Don't say 90% of the time, James.
I'm not saying that.
Don't, dude. Don't. Because, dude, look at the past 2 years. Come on, dude. Look, we've had more fights for undisputed than we've ever had in the 4-belt era. And you're saying that we get served a shit sandwich 90% of the time? That's nonsense, Jimmy.
I'd say 90% of the fights I've asked for, I didn't get. Beterbiev, Bivol.
Brother, let me tell you what determines whether or not a promoter is going to put a fight together. Demand. Demand from guys who financially, so you can take any two fighters. Oh, that's the fight that I want, and I'm just not getting it. Where's the demand? If the demand is there, the promoters will have no choice but listen. The real bosses of boxing. Hence the reason why we saw Davis Garcia happen.
Yep. If it's big enough where they feel like where the promoters feel like they will get enough financially out of the deal, and they're going to make the fight. Listen, we got 4 people on the panel here, and most likely all 4 of us would love to see Dimitri Bivol versus Arthur Beterbiev for the undisputed championship at light heavyweight.
That's the best fight that you can make in boxing, in my opinion.
Right. but we don't have enough. I feel like we don't even have enough from the boxing circle to demand that particular fight for it to be able to take place.
That's it. And once again, what does demand create? Potential dollars. And when you heard Dmitry Bivol is a manager, what's his name? Vadim Kornilov, right? Straight shooter. He goes, yeah, we were talking with Top Rank about making an undisputed unification with Artur Beterbiev, but their offer, it wasn't a serious offer. Those were his exact words. And why? Because unfortunately, there's very little demand for that fight outside of the diehard boxing community, which is nil at this point. And it's like, this is what drives me nuts about the YouTube boxing community. It's like it's a bunch of people who are crying and seemingly disgruntled, complaining about the business of boxing when they stop contributing to the financial gain of the sport a long time ago, since piracy became a real problem. And once again, I always say this, you can't fault them, because for years, they were the demographic that boxing used to rely on before there was a method of streaming this shit illegally in HD. Mm. But after being expected to foot the bill for decades, it's very hard to fault them. It's very hard to fault them for streaming this stuff illegally now.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's the biggest problem in boxing. So if you want to complain about it, that's why it determines everything. That's why Spence Crawford hasn't happened yet, guys.
Yep. And even the circle back to the thing here with Haney versus Loma, you even have this particular fight at a discounted price in pay-per-view in comparison to other pay-per-views that ESPN does.
And I promise you this, James.
But the Tank versus Ryan, it's much less than that. Much less than that.
And I promise you this, James, it'll be very fortunate to sell 100,000 purchases.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, I was thinking 200. See, for me, Joseph, I was thinking, at least do 200K. And 200K is not even a big number, really, in the grand scheme of things. But if you can't even hit 200,000, then I feel like there's no point of even putting it on pay-per-view. You might as well just put it on regular ESPN and ESPN Plus.
That's right. But when you have a fighter who's a non-ticket seller like Devin Haney, yet is demanding $5 million, once again, the promoter and the network who's footing the bill for this expensive main event, they have no choice but to attach it to the pay-per-view revenue stream out of necessity. And yes, that's one of the biggest problems in boxing.
Well, do you think that Haney deserves $5 million?
Fuck no, he's not a ticket seller, dude. No. Once again, this isn't the good old days. These aren't the good old days, right? Where you could treat it as a sport because it was still a mainstream commodity. Now, brother, what determines your market value is the demand created by the real bosses of boxing, and that's determined by ticket sales, ratings, and pay-per-view sales. Haney doesn't have any one of the three. He can't sell shit in his hometown even. So you tell me, do you think he deserves $5 million when he can't sell out my living room on a Saturday night?
But and here's the issue, though, right?
You have leverage, though.
You get what your promoter's willing to pay you.
Yeah.
And with Devin Haney, he was able to get as much as he wanted, or pretty much what he asked for, while he was under Matchroom Boxing.
Yeah, so, he was paid $3 million a fight.
$3 million
when he wasn't a proven ticket seller. He was paid that inflated purse from Eddie Hearn when he first tried to get into the American market just to attract talent. And now he's got an inflated sense of market value, just like Terrence Crawford.
So I don't think
it's fair, though, him being at the MGM Grand here against Vasyl Lomachenko. Like the last fight that he had in America was at the MGM Grand against Jojo Diaz. And how good was that particular event as far as like ticket sales are concerned? Not very good. So
See, I don't agree with you guys saying that Haney's got no leverage. When you've got 5 world titles, you've always got leverage.
Dude, that doesn't mean shit anymore in this version of the business. Honestly, promoters and networks would rather see you have not 5 trinkets around your waist, but they'd rather see you have 5 million Instagram followers. And once again, weren't you one of the guys last week who was telling me that there's a formula that determines the big star? Dude, promoters and networks don't. Okay, well, promoters and networks don't even know what the business model is nowadays. They're trying to still figure that out.
Okay, Jimmy, you talk about the thing with belts. I have a guy that is currently ranked #1 in pound for pound on the Boxing Source pound for pound top 10. He was a former undisputed cruiserweight champion and the 3-belt heavyweight champion of the world, current heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk. Where does he command any type of interest or attention to be a side anywhere?
I'll tell you where. In his last fight, he made a reported $40 million US.
Oh gosh, that doesn't mean shit. That's an inflated purse paid by the Saudis, brother. That doesn't reflect his accurate market value.
Okay. So you can even if you put
the
that
market
out
value
there,
isn't what.
Even if
your market value is what you
but
negotiate.
here's the thing.
No, dude, your market value is what the real bosses of boxing say that you deserve.
Who's putting a demand out there to see Alexander Usyk fight? Because that was his last fight, and that's been almost a year.
Oh, I'd say probably Tyson Fury versus Usyk is probably the second biggest fight in the heavyweight division outside of Fury Joshua. I don't think anyone really cares about any other fights. Outside of Tyson Fury fighting Anthony Joshua, I think that's the biggest money fight. And then after that, I'd have to say it's Usyk.
Let me ask you something, Jimbo. Two non-ticket sellers, okay? Philip Ergovich and Alexander Usyk. How much is that fight worth if you're the president of BT Sports? How much is that fight worth to you? Like, say there's a purse bid for that, and you're Eddie Hearn. You don't promote either guy, right?
Yeah.
But you do promote Philip Ergovich. Never mind. But how much would you bid for that fight, that matchup, if you were Eddie Hearn? How much is the market value for that matchup? Alexander Usyk versus Philip Ergovich.
Do you know what it is, Joseph? For me, it's difficult to say what Usyk's star power is because how much did he take from the Joshua events? Because between the two fights, didn't the last fight with Joshua do like 1.3 million pay-per-views, and they sold out a stadium, and then they went to Saudi, got paid 100 million. Like, he must have got some back, a little bit of hype from that, right, Joe? I mean, he did win the fights. He must have got a little.
But here's the thing, right? Yeah. Even with those wins, it still made it have like Usyk still had the same type of status as after he won the undisputed cruiserweight championships, right? Yeah. Like, he pretty much proved himself with the cruiserweights and everything like that. But even after that, even after beating who's the other dude that was a former champ there at cruiserweight or whatever it was, that was part of the Creed movies and whatnot.
Tony Bellew. Yeah,
Tony Bellew, right? Yeah, the Tony Bellew fight was in England. The fight against Chisora was in England. The fight that he had against Witherspoon was in Chicago?
Look, though, Dames, you're talking about something that happened. Now, once again, you cannot make relevant what happened before the Anthony Joshua fights, because Jimmy's argument is that made him a marquee attraction, and I'm saying no, it didn't. But so it defeats the purpose of bringing up anything before that. But what I am going to ask you, Jimmy, okay?
Yep.
You tell me, okay, in which matchup, all right, would Alexander Usyk be the ticket seller in the A side? And what venue would you put this matchup in, right? Right? All right, let's say Usyk versus Wilder. What's that matchup worth to you? And how much could Usyk realistically demand with that very dangerous matchup? And where would you put that fight if you're a promoter?
I think there's only two places you could put that fight. You could either put it in America, in Vegas or New York.
Why is
put it
that? Because of Wilder, right?
Yeah, because of Wilder. Or you could take it
That's
to the
right.
Middle East and try and get a bid for it with from the Saudis or from the group in Dubai.
No. Forget about the Saudis. All they pay are inflated purses. You're talking about realistic market value. And I'm trying to give you an education in that right now, my friend. Okay, now switch, right? Okay, Usyk versus Zhilei Zhang. Where would you put that fight?
I try and put that in Hong Kong.
And how much would you give Alexander Usyk for that fight? Once again, Zhang, logically, you would think about putting it in Beijing. Yep. Because, dude, Zhang is a rock star there, man. And he is the only guy with market value. Now, once again, why do you think Bob Arum is so interested in putting together Tyson Fury and Zhilei Zhang? Why do you think?
But isn't it better for Usyk to go to the Saudis then if he's got no market value organically? Wouldn't that be best?
Once again, they're very new to the sport, and they're willing to pay exorbitant amounts of money just to attract matchups. And it doesn't reflect your market value. Here's another education in that. Caleb Plant, he got $10 million fighting Canelo. And he had a pretty good showing. Was actually winning the fight on according to several fans up until the time of the stoppage.
I disagree.
Well, of course, that's debatable. That's not the point either. He made $10 million. Was that how much he was worth?
No. Is that Joseph Parker?
How much was he able to ask for in his next fight?
Against Benavidez. I don't know what he made against Benavidez, to be honest.
No, that was
it wasn't $10 million. No, his next fight though was against Durrell. And it was on the undercard. It was on the undercard of Wilder Helenius for a reason. Because Caleb Plant, even though he made $10 million in inflated purse in his previous fight, couldn't demand shit because his market value was inflated.
Yeah, same with Joseph Parker.
Now, once again, I'm still going. Yeah. Alexander Usyk versus Dillian White. Who's the A side there? And where would you put that fight?
I think that'd have to be in London. That's the only place it can generate.
Exactly. And why? Because Usyk's the big ticket seller in London? No.
No, because Derek Chisora.
Let's keep going. Joseph Parker versus Alexander Usyk. Where would you put that fight?
Joe Parker. Where we put that probably in the. Where's he from? Australia.
That's
Australia.
It. And why? Have I proven my point yet? Have I? No. Let's keep going. How about Andy Ruiz Jr.? Where do you put that fight? No brainer.
That fight would even
Los Angeles, probably Los Angeles. This is why I said it's very important for Usyk to maintain a strong relationship with the investors in the Middle East, because if you can't generate big money organically, then if these dudes are willing to pay big money for cheap shows, I mean, why not, man? I mean, you got to make money where you can. It's just smart business, really. You know, if your market value can't be generated organically, then you just go to investors like the Saudis. This is why Terence Crawford bought $50 million to the table, and Errol Spence was worried about Steven Espinosa's.
Don't even bring that up. That was a bullshit offer. That was a bullshit offer. You're talking about that like that was real, and never once, and I know this for a fact, never once did those investors contact Al Heyman to try and realistically make that fight happen. That tells me. That tells me that was a bullshit offer, and Terrence doesn't know any better.
No, that's not true, Joseph. Because if
that is true. I know this for a fact. That was that's the case. Look, James can support this. Now, once again, look, Jimmy, I've known you for a while now. You're a great guy. But honestly, I'm starting to feel that this is very disrespectful to me because, once again, I've been in this business for 20 years. James is in this business. And yet fans who will never work a day in this business are trying to tell us what the business is.
No, if you let me speak without cutting me off, like if you just give me 30 seconds of airtime.
There's a reason why I keep cutting you off, because it's nonsense, Jimmy.
Give me a second. Terence Crawford, I'm not saying this is my opinion, though. I'm not saying this is what I wasn't in negotiations. Terence Crawford on Instagram said, I called out Heyman and asked him, let's meet up to discuss whatever the investors want to discuss. And their side said no. And now Spence, I mean, the guy hasn't fought in over a year. I mean, I don't know what's going on, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that I know the truth.
Look, here's some good news, and I don't want to go off on that tangent because once again, fans have no idea what the reality of this business is. Well, hold on. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
You're very pro PBC though in your argument whenever you talk.
No, dude. I'm pro business.
Hold on.
No. James. Now, to anyone who's a detractor,
hold on, Joseph. As a host, I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to allow that because number one, you should be able to at least follow either one of us and at least try to decipher that what we do here is we do research on this. We talk to the people within the business on all sides. And I've been into and been working around all of these major outlets, whether you say Top Rank, whether you say PBC, whether you say Matchroom or whatever. I've been involved in all of that. So everything that we have done and all the research that we've done, we've talked to these people in reference to this.
Okay, but here's the problem though.
Right.
When I saw Crawford live, if he's telling me I asked them to meet me and they said no, then I've got Joseph telling me that Crawford didn't. I mean, it was refusing to show them proof. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I made a very logical.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing.
I made a very logical argument. I was using facts.
Hold on. Once again, we know the people within the business that actually have the money, the resources, and everything to make these specific fights. So the claims that Terence Crawford was making in that particular sense, when you go up against someone that's been part of the business for decades, if they make that particular claim, you best believe that they're going to call them up on it. And if
that's
they
it,
don't
James.
with that,
let me ask you something, James. And once again, thank you, my friend, for speaking some logic in here. I'm sick of this entire bullshit. And once again, let me ask you something. How many used car salesmen and phonies have you ever met in this business? Well, like Murad Muhammad, or like BLK Prime, who claimed we're going to change the way the business is run, and they're one and done in this business because they're full of shit and they don't know what the hell they're doing. How many people have you ever met in this business since you've been in?
I have not seen anything from BLK Prime since that particular event with Terence Crawford headlining that event in Nebraska.
And why? Because they don't know the business and they're full of shit. And dude, it was very easy to see. Whoa, these guys are going to bleed money in their first event and they're going to be one and done. And how many guys since you've been in the business have you seen like that? A ton. They lose their ass very quickly and go somewhere else. They're turned off from the business because they don't understand it.
Then why not bleed them dry then, Joseph, and move on? Instead of Crawford fighting Avin Eason, a fight no one wanted, why not bleed them dry with Crawford Spence and then let them collapse? I mean, that's really their problem. That's not Crawford's problems or Spence's problem. So if they had trouble getting the funds... Oh, God,
dude. You know what, dude? I'm tired. Once again, that fan rhetoric has to stop because when is it going to start? Being the fighter's problem. When is it going to... Who's going to look out for the network and the promoter? Because once again... This is the biggest problem in boxing at this time, right? This is the biggest problem that everyone that stages these huge cards have been losing money for the past 5 years. So once again, who's going to want to invest in this sport if everyone is losing money? Oh, well, that's not our problem. When does it start being the fighters' problems?
Well, I mean, what mega fights have they put on and lost money on? Fury Wilder 3, I think.
Dude. James, do you want to rattle off the list, brother?
Mega fights. Yeah, look, give me some mega fights.
Oh my God, dude!
Listen,
look at a fight. Look at a fight that actually drew huge mainstream interest. Okay.
Yep.
Once again, look at Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 2. Ask me if Fox or ESPN made money that night.
Bob Armstead didn't break even.
That's right. And you know why? And it did decent numbers, 850,000. Do you know why? because the networks invested so much money in those inflated purses and spent over $10 million promoting that fight, and they lost their ass. And that's even with a $19 million live gate. So you tell me, and so let me ask you something then. Has ESPN or Fox worked together to make another massive event like that since?
No, they haven't. There really hasn't been any
and
need.
why is that? Because
really
no
hasn't
one's
been
in business to lose money, brother.
I mean,
So
all
ask
the
me that
leagues
question.
were-
So Jimbo, ask me that question once again. Well, why don't we just let investors do that? Why don't we just milk them dry? Why don't we
Well, they're
let
doing it
them
anyway.
lose money? It's bad business, and it looks terrible for the health of the sport.
But isn't it
And once
funny, though?
again,
They're willing to do
fans,
business.
oh my gosh, fans walk around and spend so much time on these forums regurgitating this nonsense and thinking they're on to something. And honestly, I'm sick of hearing it.
Listen, and
But they're
here's
losing money
and
regardless,
here's
so
one
why can't they
point.
make the good fights, though?
Hold
I don't
on.
understand. If they were
Yeah, but
losing
here's-
money, why not make the good fights? I don't get it.
Oh my
No,
gosh,
losing money
because
no, the
Jesus.
thing is that these companies, these organizations, these corporations do not operate where it's like money grows on trees type of concept. They've never done that. So all of these fights or these potential fights that people are asking for or talking about and saying that, oh, it may be so easy to make. No, it's not. Otherwise, it would have been made already. They're, like we've said many times over, they are not in the business of losing money. No one
I
is.
agree. Fighters should take less money.
So-
No, I
so
agree
the
with you.
thing
100%.
So the thing
They
about
should pay less
having
money.
these potential fights taking place, whether it's Spence Crawford, whether it's Bivol Beterbiev, or like any of those type of fights that may, that people have talked about that potentially could have happened, like, hey, maybe even Jamal Charlo versus Demetrius Andrade. Why those particular fights have not happened yet is because these companies are not in the business of losing money. And when you have fighters that ask for, as Joseph said, inflated purses, that these execs know that even that if they pay those purses, they're not going to be able to make that money back putting up those events. They're not going to go for it. So yes, as a fan, you do, demand these particular fights or whatever it is, but you got to understand that the reason that a lot of these fights aren't happening is because these corporations are not in the business to lose money. And once y'all realize that,
Yeah, I agree, bro.
then
I think this
y'all
is the
can
reason
just
why
go ahead and move on with it, and that's
No,
that.
I think
sorry,
hardcore.
but
Sorry,
you could talk about hardcores or whatever it is and whatever money you have. It really doesn't matter if they feel like, or if they know, given the research that they put their time into, that they feel like they're going to lose money making that fight, then they're not going to make the fight, and that's that. You know what I'm saying? So here it is.
Why lose money on garbage fights though? No one's asking for it. Plan Benavidez shouldn't have been.
But the thing about it is, hold on. I'm gonna stop right there, right? These so-called garbage fights that you kind of see on there, right? They aren't necessarily that cost heavy on these networks.
Yeah,
So
look,
James, if we talk
James,
about a what was this last thing we just had? Janibek versus Steven Butler. You think that costs a whole lot of money for ESPN?
Hell no. Hell no, dude. Hell no.
Come on. But
no. Once again, James, hold on, man. Let me ask you something, and let me say something, guys. And this is a huge disclaimer moving forward on my channel as well as James's, right? Now, once again, I'm getting tired of fans accusing me of cutting them off mid-sentence. And James, you said, hey, man, I'm going to stop you right there. Why did you do that to a good guy like Jimbo? Why did you do that? Because it's nonsense, guys.
Exactly.
It's nonsense. And for guys who have been doing this for a while, who know better and who know the business, I'm sorry, but it's damn disrespectful to sit here and argue with us when we know how this shit works and you guys don't. So I'm sick of that. And let this be the last time, guys, that anyone tries to come and argue with James. Now, once again, we love discussion, But when you sit here and try to argue with us about something you know very little about and aren't willing to listen, that's when it starts crossing the line and becomes really irritating. That's why I will never go on forums like, and once again, I like H Money. I will never go on his channel again. I will never go on Smoke's channel again. I will never go on any of these forums ever again, because I sit there and I try to discuss things and I get argued with about something. And I've been in this business for 20 years and these guys haven't, nor will they ever. And they're sitting there trying to argue with us about this shit. That's where it gets irritating and disrespectful.
And here's one of the things that I find irritating about this, right? Now, being in this business for about, what has it been? Actually, you know what? I actually, this kind of like passed me, right? This particular podcast, and Brother Terrell has been part of this podcast for a long time. This is going into the 9th season of the Boxing Source Radio Show. 9. And over the course of time, I've learned so much about the business and so much how things work and why things are possible and why things are not possible and why fights, can get made or why they haven't been made. And the thing about it is that once you kind of like understand that, then you kind of understand how the business works, especially on the highest level when it comes to quote unquote super fights.
Now let me ask you something, James.
Okay.
Now, entering this business, sir, and I was the same exact position you were 20 years ago, right? And you've been a decade, right? Now, when you first started talking about boxing, you first started covering fights, you ascertained very quickly that you really didn't know as much as you thought you did you? Right?
Right.
And you were explained, and how did you react? Did you start getting pissed off and standoffish and argue? No, you were humble and you listened. That's how you learned. Guys, so learn by James's example. If you want to know more about the business, listen to someone who's actually going to spend the time with you and actually teach you more about the business. Because I guarantee you, guys like Steven Espinoza won't put up with that shit. He's not going to take the time to talk with you guys like James would, like I would.
Nope.
Lou DiBella, ask him.
Ooh.
Do you think he would actually take the time? He'd turn around and hang up the phone on you. Bob Arum, do you think Bob Arum would take the time to speak with fans and educate them about the business?
Now,
okay, so guys, once again, before you start arguing with either myself or James, listen and think about what we're saying. Because we've been there. We're still here.
Now, Terrell, you still on with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. Now,
thank you, Terrell. I appreciate you sitting through that.
Terrell,
my apologies, sir.
Now, Brother Terrell, you have a company of sorts, and you've heard me reference this TTP, right?
Yep.
TTP, Terrell Thomas Promotions. So you kind of know, as I know, about promoting events, right?
Yes.
So I learned this way early in the boxing game because I have promoted events before getting in the boxing business. And once you know about all the technicalities that you need to know before you even throw any type of event, regardless of the size, then you know what it takes in order to make events like these super fights or whatever it is happen. And you know the logistics of all of that. Once you compute all of that, and once you see what it takes in order to make those type of fights, then you know why certain fights don't happen, or you know why certain fights lose a lot of money. And once you understand that, then you would understand why certain fights don't happen. And as a fan, if you keep asking those questions, then you have to look into what it takes in order to make those type of a fight. And if you can't understand that, then you're going to still complain and cry and moan and, as I say, bitch or whatever. But it is what it is. That's what the business of boxing is. So if you can't understand that in reference to certain fighters, or in that recent example with Alexander Usyk, hey, if Usyk can't draw, or Janibek can't draw flies so barn, or Usyk can't draw enough to be an attraction outside of the Ukraine, hey, can't help you. Can't help you on that. So that's why I got on that. That is, pretty much, what we got in this particular podcast. Like I said, it's been 9 seasons in, pretty much 9 years in.
And you do a great job, James. Once again, Jimmy, I tell you what, you said you sold out your integrity for a PBC press pass. I don't even cover fights anymore, brother, because of my health. I can't travel. All right? I'm a ring announcer, though, and a commentator here regionally in South Texas. I've been in this business for 20 years. And yes, when I was, before my accident, which broke my hip, my pelvis, and shattered my knee, I was covering all the big events, brother. And not for PBC. I was covering events long before they ever existed. Top Rank, Golden Boy, main events, even Gary Shaw Promotions. Do you know what that is, son? You remember Gary Shaw? He was the matchmaker for old main events, and he formed his own promotional entity. And he helped stage Diego Corrales versus Jose Luis Castillo on Showtime. That's how long I've been doing this shit, brother. And at least I can say I've actually been accepted to have press passes for every major promoter. Were you at Mayweather-Pacquiao? Were you at that event covering as a member of the media? Then shut your ass. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. And I've been nice to you up until this point. But, dude, I'll be blatant about it. I'll be very blunt. You don't know shit. Right? Now, dude, hey, man, you want to talk like a man? You want to say big shit? Come back on here, man. Right? Don't be throwing shit in the chat, especially shit that you don't know anything about.
Hey,
kiss my ass. Want to challenge my integrity.
Like you can't even, like I said, if you haven't even been approved to a local event, you really can't. You really can't.
Dude, he's never even been to a local gym.
Come on. So so making those type of points or trying to make a point, that's just not gonna work. Not gonna work. Either you've been in the game or you're just a fan. And the thing is, fan is short for fanatic. And when you're a fanatic, there's a couple of things where you could say stuff that's way off base and you don't even realize it. But
let me ask you something, James. Can we still even call them fans these days? Because fans traditionally have supported their quote unquote favorite pastime financially. Nope. Unless you start once again financially supporting your favorite sport. You're called a hater now, brother. Not a fan. So keep hating, dude. Keep hating on other forums.
Hey, and it's like what was it that Errol Spence told Illy Sackback or whatever it was when he talked about the whole thing with the face of boxing. What did he say? He said the fans determine who the face of boxing is.
That's it. And what did I say last week on the show?
Who you put in the money for. If Canelo has a fight, you put in the money, he's the face of boxing. If Tank has a fight coming up, he's the face of boxing. If Devin Haney, if Vasyl Lomachenko have a fight coming up, y'all decide if they're the face of boxing. So y'all got to put in the money to order that pay-per-view on ESPN Plus coming up on May 20th. So y'all get ready for that particular fight and that particular fight card. That will be part of the MGM Grand Garden Arena. And, that's pretty much what I got to say about that. This, what is it? It's a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern time here. And we, covered as much as we possibly could here on this particular episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. Like I said, this is pretty much gone into the 9th season of this podcast. pretty much trying to have this every single Sunday of the year, and it's been going through 8 complete years in this particular podcast form. And I thank everyone here for being a part of this particular podcast. But before we kind of like bring in a close, want to give a quick shout out, to Esa Akunye with the $5 super chat. He has this quick question: do you guys think Haney is an A-level fighter already? And if not, would a Loma win solidify him? What does a win do for Loma in his resume? All right, good set of questions there from Brother Iso.
Can you keep that on the board, please?
Yeah, all right, let's do it.
Thank you, James. Go ahead, sir. You list your response first, and then we'll go clockwise, right?
Okay. As far as like Haney being an A-level fighter,
now I'm assuming I'm assuming that you mean skill level, right?
That's what I'm hoping.
Because you're now, Jimmy, here, I'm going to teach you something again, brother. Listen, if you're a real fan, right? So once again, if you're mean market value A-level fighter, no, not even close. But skill level, of course, Haney is one of the best fighters in boxing in terms of controlling range with his footwork and his jab alone. He's very hard to get to. He's got some of the best feet in boxing. But in terms of marketability, a market level, A-level attraction, no, not even close. And Top Rank being his final fight on his contract. Okay, they're giving him that opportunity. Hey, show us what you can do, Junior. And if this event loses money, don't expect Bob Arum to extend his contract any further. That's a lesson in the business of boxing.
Yeah. And this is he said, in reference to skill level. Given his previous performances there against George Kambosos Jr., I would put him around that the borderline between B and A. The borderline between B and A. Okay. And thing about it is that I haven't seen him be consistent in his like overall performances, especially like his past few performances. When I saw him live in 2019, in the year 2019, when he had his fight here at the MGM and then over at the theater in Madison Square Garden, when he, pretty much got 2 stoppage victories there, I thought that he would have been able to have that type of combination of consistency with, working with the jab and then working off that jab to set up his opponents, But after that, he kind of dropped off from that a little bit. So, I got to see, a little bit more from him to kind of like see if he gets that back a little bit to where he kind of like could give a combination of the skill level, but also combine that with power to, be able to stop opponents. So I haven't necessarily seen that complete type of a fight there from Devin Haney as of yet. Now, if he's able to show that in this upcoming fight against Vasyl Lomachenko, then you could probably lean him more towards the A level there. Now, I do have Devin Haney listed in the Boxing Source pound for pound top 10, but he's on the the bottom half there of the top 10. So I have guys like a Shakur Stevenson over him, like a like a Tank Davis over him, or like Naoya Inoue over him, and that type of thing. But he does have the opportunity to kind of like showcase his skill level in this high-profile fight against Vasyl Lomachenko. And if he's able to, have that type of a complete package there against a Vasyl Lomachenko, then that would kind of like move him up there from a certain level. And if, and this is a small if, he wins that fight and he stays at 135 pounds and faces Shakur Stevenson and gets a win there, then that could really boost him up. But
that is a very, very intelligent and in-depth and a very well thought out response, James. Bravo, brother. Very well said. Now, Jimmy, you still talking shit, buddy? Okay, I'm just going to say this. Consider the source. If they're ignorant fans like yourself, and once again, I've been respectful and chill up to this point, and I've humored you guys up to this point, but not any further.
Man,
not any
move
further.
On, move on.
And once again, brother, consider the source.
Move on.
If it's these same guys who are hoping for the demise of an entire platform to duck out of the sport, well, then I don't know what else to tell you, dude, because those are probably the guys that you're listening to. So I'm sorry. Right now, you're void to me, brother. I'm not going to listen to a damn thing that you say from this point forward. I've been nice to you up until this point.
Yeah, it's cool. Let's move on and talk about the big fight.
My apologies, sir. I just had to nip that in the bud. I'm not harping on it any further from this point forward.
Yeah, because we know there's a big old sect in boxing Twitter that says blames, oh, you guys are PBC guys. No, it's not. That's not the case. When you listen to people, follow what they're saying, follow their posts, things like that. I mean, there's a bunch of PBC fanboys out there, but definitely not here. Definitely not here. It's funny. I think a couple years ago we had I got what James Jared. What's the guy we had on here the one time? The white guy. What's his name?
What was it? Some time back?
Yeah, about 2 years ago, we had him on here as a guest and everything. And then post show, it comes out nice, accusing everyone of being a PBC guys and stuff like that. Older white gentleman.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Oh, Rick Glazer.
There you go.
No. Rick Glazer is a very dear friend of mine, but he has a personal beef with Al Heyman. And once again, it's like, I love Rick, and he's a real guy. And I'll give you a story as to why he's a real guy and how I first met him. We had a problem matching up a fighter on our card. A gentleman recommended, said, hey, reach out to Rick, and he'll fix you up with a perfect matchup for your opponent. And boy, he did it within 2 or 3 hours. He's a legit guy, but he has a personal vendetta against Al Heyman and cannot acknowledge anything that he does right, or Steven Espinosa, or Tom Brown.
Absolutely nothing.
Yep.
And oh man, and he's had some crazy takes on this show some years back, and one of them did involve Mr. Errol Spence Jr. that he was completely wrong about. That we kind of keep up here in the boxing circle. So that was the thing there, man. But Brother Terrell, you wanted to have a take there on the Haney versus Lomachenko fight.
No, I mean, just going back to one thing that you were pointing out in regards to why fights do not happen. I mean, that's a perfect explanation of why fights happen. Bottom line, once again, boxing is a business, and these corporations they didn't become corporations by just throwing away money. We know that they make wise business decisions. And bottom line, if it costs like what the perfect Fury Wilder 2. They went all out on that promotion, and I know it cost them all kind of money. They put these guys on was it American Idol, whatever show was that going on?
They put them. They had like maybe American Idol. They had put them. Well, they had scheduled them for college football playoff promotion.
Yep.
Tyson Fury made it for one. Deontay Wilder couldn't make it for his side, but they put them on ESPN. They put them on other channels to try to promote the mess out of that particular fight. So that shows you how much money they invested in that particular event.
They had a spot on the Super Bowl promoting that fight. Fox.
Yeah, and what that says, so these days it's just different now these days. Unless you have at least one polarizing fighter with negative connotations in it, it's not going to sell big. I mean, you look at Ryan Garcia and Hank. Ryan Garcia, pretty much the pretty boy, millions of followers, things like that, and take with his size of controversy, things like that. That's when you had unfortunately, that's what makes a big boxing event. Unfortunately, these days, So, because I mean, at this point now, we will probably never ever see another Mayweather, that's been a cash cow of boxing like that, commanding these huge pay-per-view numbers and things like that. It's different, and the reason why it's different because people are the illegal streaming things like that, right?
That's it. That's it. And once again, if you listen to ignorant channels instead of listening to someone like Terrell or James who professes the business of boxing, who understand it, yeah, you're gonna remain in ignorance, right? You're gonna remain in ignorance. Okay, these guys are very intelligent in terms of the business of boxing and everything else in their personal and business lives, right? And once again, guys, I'm completely disgruntled at this point. I am so pissed off right now. And so I'm going to bid you guys adieu. Have an excellent evening. And, I probably won't even do my show with Gogi because I'm so pissed off right now. But, hey, James, thank you for keeping it together. Thank you for always doing a great job on your channel, brother. And thank you, Terrell. For everything that you add as well, man. And God bless all of you guys, and have a wonderful Sunday evening, guys.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for being a part of this particular podcast. And of course, the past podcasts that you have been involved with. You've been a great contribution to the movement here on the Boxing Source. And, really do hope that you do end up having the show with Brother Gogi there. We kind of enjoy those conversations with you and Coach Gogi on your channel there, like every week. So hopefully you will be able to make that here later on in this evening here. So, like you said, thanks for being a part of this particular podcast and contributing to the Boxing Source. And we're definitely going to be hearing more from you here in the future, no doubt.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for always being supportive, and thank you for staying neutral and promoting everything about the health of the sports, not just one platform over another. That yields ignorance. And can you even call people like that anymore real boxing fans if they're praying secretly for the demise of another platform?
Yeah, I can't.
No, it's all ignorance and nonsense, and I don't have any time for that rubbish. Anyway, guys, God bless you both. And I hope you guys remain talking amongst yourselves about boxing a little bit longer. I know we've been on for over 2 hours, but your listeners deserve that. And I'm sorry, man, that I just blasted someone who was disrespectful and ignorant. And I'm sorry it got the better of me, guys. But God bless both of you. And please continue to talk about boxing, Terrell.
Thanks for the first singing performance on Boxing Source.
God
bless you guys. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, not a problem. Have a good night there, man. But yeah, there's, like I said, you had that upcoming card there with Haney versus Lomachenko at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. That will be part of that ESPN Plus pay-per-view. You have Junto Nakatani versus Andrew Maloney for the WBO Super Flyweight Championship. So hopefully we might see if Andrew Maloney could match what his brother there, Jason Maloney, was able to do yesterday and win a world title. You also have Ray Murataya versus Jeremiah Nakathila as part of that card, pay-per-view card. And also Oscar Valdez returns to the ring after losing to Shakur Stevenson, and he will be in a rematch against Adam Blue Nose Lopez. And I think what was it? I think, Terrell, you did post I think you did post a fight card here somewhere. Maybe you did or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, you did. And I don't know, man. I think you seen a couple of these other fights here. Nico Ali Walsh versus Danny Rosenberger, and was Emiliano Vargas, one of the sons of the former world champion, multi-world champion Fernando Vargas. He will be facing Rafael Jasso. You have a couple of other fights that are part of that particular card. And I think there was like another notable event that was coming up on Saturday as well. I think it's Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron, and it's also on May 20th in Dublin, Ireland. So, and that's for the undisputed super lightweight championship. So Katie Taylor goes up from lightweight to super lightweight to face Chantel Cameron, and also you'll have Terry Harper versus Cecilia Braekhus as part of that card as well. So that's what he got coming up for Saturday there. So that's a full slate of boxing coming up there for May 20th. Hopefully y'all look forward to that. But yeah, this was a pretty eventful particular podcast. Hopefully y'all were able to learn a few things and whatnot. And hey, it is what it is. I mean, if you don't understand what goes on in the sport, can't help you. Like I said, so that is what it is, man. Big thanks for all of those that joined here on live. And for those watching the replay, thank y'all for listening to it on the replay. Brother Terrell, is that all from you?
Yeah, I'm just kind of deflated at this point now. So.
No doubt. So with that being said, it brings a close to this May 14th, 2023 edition of the Boxing Source Radio Show. And like I said, at the end of every show, folks, the point of boxing is to hit and not get hit, not to send and trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.